Comes to your favorite things, you can't be too careful. Mayflower.
There's a song for you in Tennessee.
So won't you come and join us? Come on and sing along. In Tennessee, we're playing your song.
Come to Tennessee, we're playing your song.
For your free vacation guide, call 1-800-826-2000.
Introducing Rice-A-Roni in the resealable canister. Make as little or as much as you want and get that same great taste. So you can serve the whole gang or just part of it.
The San Francisco tree.
Many TV viewers know Kadeem Hardison as the star of the sitcom A Different World. He plays Dwayne Wayne, a wisecracking college student turned math professor. But this Thursday, viewers will see a different side of the actor. Bill Tush explains.
But how many women have what Whitley has? Pow, ping, pop. You know, come on now, wait a minute now. Lisa got some pow, ping, pop going on. But that's not what it was about.
For 5 years, Kadeem Hardison has gotten laughs as an actor on A Different World. This Thursday, Hardison hopes to shake up his show's viewers with an episode that he conceived and helped write. The show explores violence against women.
Gina, I'll never touch you again.
The storyline in the show is a young fella who's kind of a rapper, and we see that over the course of the half hour, which is all we have for the 22 minutes, that he's abusive to his girlfriend.
The episode is entitled Love Taps and was inspired by a real-life incident wherein a former TV rap show host was attacked by a member of the controversial rap group NWA. For Love Taps, Hardison chose to focus on the issues of violence and disrespect toward women in rap music and society at large.
I've got homework to do.
Who you studying with? Don't walk away from me.
Hurting me, let go.
I thought, all right, I'd like to attack this, but I'd like to go at it from the inside to see, you know, I mean, that's something that you just don't do at the end of a day. You know, it's something that starts out when you're a kid. You see it as you're a child.
The episode also marks Hardison's directorial debut.
When I was directing, I was all about camera shots, and the fun part was all week. You know, I got to rehearse with the actors and do it again, and no, let's not do it again, and how y'all feel about that? I like that part a lot. That was really easy for me.
And how did Hardison's co-stars take to the young director?
I think that this entire week has just been terrible. I think his career is probably going to go down the toilet as a result of his attempting to direct.
It's not a transition for us. It's a transition for Kadeem. I think he has more of a challenge than we do.
The actors with no problem, working with them with no problem, because I knew, you know, I figured my strength is communicating to actors, being an actor. So I had no problem getting people to give me what I wanted. It was really in the booth where I was just a little nervous.
Bill Tush, CNN Entertainment News, New York.
As we turn now to music news, new on the shelf this week are selections from saxophonist George Howard, Slaughter's follow-up to their multi-platinum debut album, and Shirley Horn's collaboration with composer Johnny Mandel.
Like the branches of the vine that intertwine.
Johnny Mandel. I've been loving him for a long time. For many years I've been listening to his orchestrations and what have you. And I felt like one with him.
This new record has a very live aspect to it. And what we tried to do is put every human emotion that we could in one record.
I feel really good about this record because for the first time, I made a record not just for the people, but I made a record for myself too. And so it's kind of schizophrenic in its nature.
Even when it seems like everything in your house is wrinkled, now there's an easy way to iron it all. The Magic Press from Singer. It's portable, easy to use, and gives you professional-looking results while saving time and money. And since the Singer Magic Press cuts ironing time in half, now you'll have time to iron everything that's wrinkled. The Magic Press in dry and steam, the latest wrinkle in ironing from Singer.
The telephone is one of your most important business tools. But on the road, are you always hanging around waiting for messages? Now freedom can be in the palm of your hand because now there's Mobilecom nationwide messaging. It's America's most complete paging service. Mobilecom gives you more coverage coast to coast, customized regional coverage, and text messaging. So don't get hung up waiting on messages. Get Mobilecom nationwide messaging. Just call 1-800-685-5555.
Recognize the name James Cameron? He's the director behind some of the biggest science fiction films of recent years. 20th Century Fox thinks enough of him to sign a deal reportedly worth $500 million. Cameron, who directed and wrote the mega hit Aliens, says the deal calls for him to direct, write, or produce as many as 12 films for Fox over the next 5 years. Cameron also directed Terminator, but he's uncertain about any more Terminator films because his company doesn't own the rights.
The new movie, Passed Away, looks at the coming together of a large family when the dearly departed dad leaves the clan to fend for himself. And strange as it may seem, this film is a comedy. Gloria Hillard spoke to the film stars, Pamela Reed and Nancy Travis, who hope that their latest effort won't make a quick trip to the movie graveyard.
Taking a cue from the title, Passed Away begins with the patriarch of the Scanlon clan leaving.
Dad?
What follows is the family arriving for
Fine Irish white.
Pamela Reed calls it a dark comedy, and oddly, parts of it parallel her own life.
I fear death terribly, don't you?
Not as much as I fear my family.
As with her character, Reed's father was a union leader. Her family is Irish Catholic, and both she and her screen persona pursued a life in the arts. Translation, the black sheep.
Most actors usually are the black sheep of their families. You know, if they aren't when they start as actors, they usually are by the time they finish.
This film features a cast of New York-trained black sheep, including the mystery woman, Cassie, portrayed by Nancy Travis. Like Reed, she, too, is from a close-knit family.
And certainly just as dysfunctional as the Scanlon family.
Audiences may remember Travis from her debut with 3 Men and a Baby and its sequel.
I'm getting married.
I thought that was just going to be this little part that I had in this movie, and then they said, by the way, we might be making a sequel. And all of a sudden I was like, a sequel? Might I be in it? And then I was, and it's just, it's been great.
The so-called Hollywood success she keeps in perspective.
Try to balance your life as much as possible and not make this the thing that you're thriving on.
A feeling shared by her co-star.
I'm so privileged to be able to pursue this life. You know, I have no right to complain. A little bit about male and female opportunities in terms of the amount of roles that are written for women.
Her recent role in Kindergarten Cop was originally written for a man, but was given to her instead.
Relax. Don't let him get to you. When I look at scripts sometimes, I look at the male roles now as well as the female and see if there's possibility for conversion.
For both Reed and Travis, this project, despite its somewhat dark comedic side, brought back fond memories of family.
What INS agents?
There are secret agents all over the house looking for her Salvadoran.
Maybe it's something with big families. Gloria Hillard, CNN, Los Angeles.
And that is it for this edition of Showbiz Today. Please join us tomorrow for a behind-the-scenes report on the last episode of Growing Pains. In Hollywood, I'm Bella Shaw.
And in New York, I'm Laurin Sydney. And for all of us here at Showbiz Today, make it a good one.
To follow that star.
How bad are your allergies?
Terrible.
Terrible allergy attack?
I feel like I just want to unscrew my head, take it off.
Suppose I took your Benadryl away.
I'd be home in bed.
Would you try this new allergy medicine?
Does it work the same?
Dristan Allergy has a decongestant, and this Benadryl doesn't. So it relieves nasal congestion and pressure Benadryl can't. Let's try it.
Okay. I feel fantastic.
Why?
I can breathe through my nose. I don't need a tissue anymore.
New Dristan Allergy. Dristan, the face of relief today.
All of these children have one thing in common. All of them were unplanned pregnancies. Pregnancies that could have ended in abortion. But their parents toughed it out, listened to their hearts, and discovered along the way that sometimes the best things in life aren't planned. Life. What a beautiful choice.
Got the series evened up there. We had the lead by 1 point, fifth game of that series. Just a few seconds left on the clock, and Michael catches the ball top of the key. 2 guys on him. He shoots a shot, fades away. Nothing but net. It's over. The first thing went through my mind was, well, we lost the third game. We're out of it. And that was just an amazing shot. He gets the basketball, you're in trouble.
The New Yorker. It's been called the best magazine in the world, probably the best magazine that ever was. See if you agree. Call this number and get 52 weekly issues of the New Yorker for just $25.95. That's $65 off the cover price. Week after week, the quality of the New Yorker speaks for itself. So call 1-800-257-1257 for 52 weekly issues of the best magazine in the world. Yes, the New Yorker.
This is CNN.
I feel a sense of relief that when we go home tonight, we can tell our son that Mr. Bob will never get out of jail again.
If you saw any one of those kids testify, there was no question in your mind that what they were talking about happened to them.
A verdict for a daycare center owner accused of sexually abusing the children in his care. His trial, the longest and most expensive criminal trial in North Carolina's history.
The scales of justice are balancing the weight of abortion again. The Supreme Court may decide if the legal right to abortion remains the law of the land.
And in Mexico, the body count rises and the search for survivors goes on in the rubble of downtown Guadalajara. This is Newsnight Update. I'm Jonathan Mann.
And I'm Leon Harris. Thanks for joining us. But first, this breaking story. A strong earthquake has shaken the Los Angeles area, measuring 6.3 on the Richter scale. A quake with that magnitude is capable of causing severe damage, but so far there are no reports of any damages or injuries at this point. The earthquake happened about a half hour ago and was felt as far as 50 miles east of Los Angeles and as far south as Tijuana, Mexico. Buildings reportedly swayed for 15 seconds as the earth moved. Fans at Dodger Stadium felt the quake as they watched the Dodgers-Cincinnati Reds game.
Experiencing an earthquake in Los Angeles. Something is shaking in this booth. Is that what that is? That's what that is. Wow, that's my first experience.
Well, that gives you a good idea of just how strong that was. Earlier Wednesday, a moderate earthquake shook parts of Southern California. That one measured 4.6 and knocked out some telephone service. Again, we report to you, as we did moments ago, that a strong earthquake measuring 6.3 on the Richter scale has shaken the Los Angeles area in Southern California, and we will continue to update you with details on that as they come in.
Mexico's second largest city is a scene of destruction. It looks as if an earthquake struck Guadalajara Wednesday morning, but it was a series of gas explosions in the sewer system that left the city in chaos. The Mexican army has been deployed to keep order. Looting arrests already have been made. Crews are still searching the rubble that used to be thousands of buildings, hoping to find survivors, more likely now finding bodies. Death toll reports range from 180 people to more than 200, and some officials say hundreds more are still missing. The number of injured also runs in the hundreds. Mexico's state-run oil company says the explosions were caused by volatile liquid hexane that leaked into the sewer system. But the company responsible for the hexane disputes that. The explosions ripped a 10-block-long trench in the center of Guadalajara, which is northwest of Mexico City. We'll have more coming up on Worldwide Update.
In economic news, Americans on the average got bigger paychecks last year, but they failed to keep up with rising prices. Personal income averaged just over $19,000 per person in 1991. That's about 2% more than the year before, the slowest growth rate since the 1958 recession. But when you adjust for inflation, the per capita income actually shrank for the first time in 9 years. The 4.1% inflation rate is nearly double the growth rate.
Higher inflation and shrinking income. It's like salt on the wounds of Detroit city workers. Motown is in deep debt. Its flamboyant and controversial mayor is asking citizens to bite the bullet now, but some find his plan hard to swallow, as CNN's Ed Garston reports.
Motown sits on the banks of the Detroit River, but the city is swimming in red ink, $300 million deep. So now Mayor Coleman Young is tossing out a painful life preserver.
The projected cuts are real. Many are painful. This budget represents what we must do if we are to survive.
Cuts include reducing hours for city workers, freezing wages, and mandating one unpaid day off each month.
I'm not asking a thing from the employees of this city that's not applying to each of us, starting with me.
Well, I'd rather not be cut back, but I'd rather be working and in the street.
I can't take any more of a hit than I already am taking without cutting back into the bone.
You can't strike when you know the city is broke and times are hard. You got to take what you can get.
Taking the bus would be tougher under Young's plan. They simply wouldn't run during certain hours each night. And now riders are telling the mayor where to get off.
I had to try and find the best way I could to get to work. The best way. I don't know what way that'd be, but I'll find some way to get there.
Oh, no, I think it'd be unfair.
Well, one proposal is to charge a toll for the first time to cross the bridge to Belle Isle, Detroit's popular island park.
Maybe to go for some of the cleanup and stuff.
New York City has proven there's life after red ink. The Big Apple recently turned a budget crisis into a $200 million surplus.
But one expert says cutting jobs and services is an old idea that never did much good anyway. He says the trend now is to take those jobs and services and put them in the private sector.
Services the government could still control, but private contractors supply.
What our studies show is that privatization actually moves some of the public sector employees into the private sector, re-employs them because they have the skills. And actually, by keeping costs lower, it actually lends more resources in other areas so that the citizens are better served.
However,
I didn't become mayor of this city to give away all the jewels of this city. It's some kind of rummage sale.
And some employees say anything's better than a going out of business sale.
I make a decent living and a decent wage working for the city, and if a wage freeze is going to save jobs, I'm willing to take it.
Ed Garston, CNN, Detroit.
Chicago Mayor Richard Daley is laying more blame for last week's underground flooding disaster. Wednesday, he fired 2 more city officials and sought to suspend 3 others. Daley believes some of them knew a tunnel beneath the Chicago River was damaged, but didn't act fast enough to repair it. The tunnel gave way last week under the weight of pilings, sending 250 million gallons of water surging through the 50-mile system and flooding downtown businesses. Last week, Daley fired the head of the Transportation Department, which oversees the tunnel system.
The U.S. Justice Department is reportedly suing a California military contractor for allegedly falsifying weapons tests. The New York Times report is based on a civil suit unsealed Wednesday. The suit says that between the years 1983 and 1990, Teledyne Incorporated repeatedly certified the test to the government. And the Times reports government assertions that in many cases the electrical components were faulty. The Times says Teledyne has declined comment.
Updating our top story now, the earthquake that struck Southern California. We now learn that its epicenter was Desert Hot Springs. That's about 120 miles east of Los Angeles. The earthquake once again registered 6.3 on the Richter scale. It struck at 9:50 p.m. Pacific time. No word, though, of any injuries or serious damage. Just ahead on Newsnight Update, opposing lawyers argue abortion before the U.S. Supreme Court.
And parents are pleased by the outcome of one of the biggest child abuse trials in the U.S.
Also, it was one horrific ride for an Australian jockey.
Morning breath.
As soon as I have my coffee, it's all gone.
Whether you admit it or not, it's a problem.
Okay, I have morning breath, but it doesn't bother anyone.
Don't be so sure.
Mine's not so bad.
Morning breath's not as bad as you think. It's worse. So get Scope. Its 2 powerful ingredients kill 90% of the bacteria that cause morning breath.
Was my morning breath really that bad?
There's no denying morning breath, so save your breath with Scope.
Is one of your most important business tools. But on the road, are you constantly tied up waiting for messages? Now freedom can be in the palm of your hand, because today there's Mobilecom nationwide messaging. It's America's most complete paging service. Mobilecom gives you more coverage coast to coast, customized regional coverage, and text messaging. So don't get tied up waiting on messages. Get Mobilecom nationwide messaging. Just call 1-800-685-5555.
On CNN tomorrow, worrying about losing work? How to stop the fear of being fired on morning news. Then on World Day, the rich and the poor. Why the gap is growing. All tomorrow on CNN.
Australian jockey Simon Mills is just plain lucky to be alive. On Monday, during the Great Eastern Steeplechase in Oakbank, Australia, the 23-year-old was thrown from the saddle of Sir Sagamore. His right foot got caught in the stirrup and he was dragged along. Mills was finally able to get his foot free. He sustained a broken arm and lost several teeth, though, and spent 2 days in a coma in hospital. But he survived.
The U.S. Supreme Court has begun consideration of one of the nation's most restrictive abortion laws. The Pennsylvania law does not outlaw abortions, but it could challenge the legality of abortion. CNN's Anthony Collins reports the case could also have political ramifications.
Pro-choice. You don't have to get it. You don't have to make.
But why does death have to be one of the choices?
It's not death. It's not death.
What is it? It's not life.
Is abortion a fundamental constitutional right? That was a key issue as the Supreme Court heard arguments over a Pennsylvania law that would restrict abortion. The lawyer for abortion rights advocates said upholding this law would mean that the court was taking away a fundamental right, a right it recognized in its 1973 Roe v. Wade decision legalizing abortion.
There is absolutely no way that this case is only about the Pennsylvania restrictions. This case is about making abortion illegal. This case is about sending women back to the back alleys for their medical care.
But several justices indicated they did not see a need to undercut Roe in order to uphold the Pennsylvania law. That was the view of Pennsylvania's Attorney General.
There's nothing wrong with the state promoting the interest in having children as opposed to having them aborted.
But when the Pennsylvania lawyer told the court that Roe made abortion only a limited right, not a fundamental one, Justice Harry Blackmun, the author of that decision, snapped, "Have you read Roe?" If the Pennsylvania law is upheld, women in that state would have to wait 24 hours, hear a doctor explain fetal development, and tell their husbands they're having an abortion. Solicitor General Kenneth Starr, the administration's lawyer, said the High Court should not only uphold the law, but declare abortion is not a fundamental right, making it easier for states to regulate abortion in the interest of those who will be born. David Souter asked whether states could ban abortion altogether under that standard, and was among several justices, including Sandra Day O'Connor, who raised questions about the requirement that wives tell husbands. Justice Clarence Thomas asked no questions.
With 4 conservative justices apparently ready to overturn Roe, a key question is whether they have found the 5th vote they need from Thomas, Souter, or O'Connor. The answer to that, and whether the court is now ready to say abortion is no longer a fundamental right, will come in their decision by July. Anthony Collins, CNN, at the Supreme Court.
Meanwhile, nearly 200 anti-abortion protesters were arrested outside a women's clinic near They tried to push their way past police barricades and abortion rights advocates in an attempt to enter the facility. The protests and counter-protests have been going on all week. The anti-abortion group Operation Rescue is promising protests to rival last year's in Wichita, Kansas, where 2,600 people were arrested over 46 days. The man at the center of North Carolina's longest and most costly criminal trial will be sentenced Thursday. A jury found Robert Kelly Jr. guilty Wednesday of 99 counts of sexually abusing children. Parents of the victims wept and hugged each other at the outcome of the 8-month trial in Farmville. Prosecutors had accused Kelly of abusing the children at the Little Rascals daycare center he ran in the late 80s. Kelly has vowed to fight his conviction from jail. His trial has already cost the state more than $1 million. But there was also an emotional toll.
I cried when Mark called me and told me that there was a verdict, and that I went to meet him where he worked, and we watched CNN there to await really what might determine the rest of our life and what we were going to have to tell our son.
It's definitely a big day for us. It's something we worked for 3.5 years.
Kelly faces 40 life sentences plus 460 years. 6 other defendants connected to the case are still awaiting trial. Coming up in Newsnight Update, more, of course, on the breaking story, the severe earthquake that struck Southern California. Also, he came in with a bang and went out with a whimper, but David Duke says he's not going away. We'll have details. And while ordinary people celebrated Earth Day, politicians recycled their environmental policies in the hopes of sprucing up their campaigns. Don't go away.
Here's an opportunity to receive a free copy of William F. Buckley's controversial essay, In Search of Anti-Semitism.
When you get National Review, you'll have news and opinion you can't find anywhere else. A National Review gives you insights into current events and information about important issues from a decidedly different set of priorities.
Call this toll-free number now and we'll send you free William F. Buckley's controversial essay, In Search of Anti-Semitism. For a trial subscription to National Review, call 1-800-257-1257.
What can I say, gentlemen? It was my day. Well, it's your day to buy, too.
Okay, you guys, we'll be right back. Go someplace special, okay? Yeah. We're gonna have 6 Big Macs.
Yes. 4 quarter pounds with cheese. Thank you, Michelle.
Tomorrow, have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Did you go to that concert on Saturday?
No, I missed it, and I really did want to go. Well, here's your favorite seat. You go first.
No matter who you are,
Want to sign your autograph?
no matter what you do, what you want is food with the taste you love.
The Big Mac extra value meal, please.
What you need is a break for your budget.
Where do you want to go? I only got a couple bucks.
What you deserve is to be treated the way you like to be treated. That's what you want. That's what you get. At McDonald's today.
CNN's political anchor team. Their job is to bring you breaking news. Bernard Shaw, a world-class journalist, heads CNN's political coverage. Catherine Cryer, experienced anchor and interviewer. Frank Sesno, veteran White House correspondent and anchor. All part of the most experienced team ever assembled to cover Campaign USA 92. Only on CNN.
David Duke is getting off the presidential campaign trail. The former Louisiana state legislator announced Wednesday he will attend the Republican convention this summer and be available for the nomination if there is a stalemate. But in his words, I don't think that is likely to happen. The former Ku Klux Klan leader failed to win any primary delegates. He blames his poor showing on a late start, not his past ties to the Klan. The remaining candidates used Earth Day 92 to highlight their environmental agendas and criticize their opponents' policies. Here's CNN's Jill Doherty.
Earth Day came to Washington with solar cars and energy conservation, and the Bush, Clinton, and Brown camps cranked up their own versions of political global warming. President Bush issued a 6-page list of his environmental accomplishments and signed legislation protecting parts of 8 rivers in, of all places, Arkansas, leaving direct attacks to a member of his administration.
Bill Clinton's record on the environment as governor of Arkansas
is the worst in the nation. His slippery attempt on Earth Day today to gloss over that deplorable record gives new meaning to the word oil slick.
Presidential spokesman Marlon Fitzwater joined in, telling reporters, quote, Clinton knows pollution, he's got it, he's caused it, and he's doing nothing to clean it up. Clinton, detailing his environmental package at an Earth Day event in Philadelphia, took his attack straight to Bush, calling the president's record rudderless and reactive.
George Bush promised to be the environmental president, but at a photo op at the Grand Canyon is still about all we have to show for it.
Jerry Brown, across the street from the White House, dropped off hundreds of petitions at the Council on Environmental Quality, urging Bush to get the government on the road to energy independence.
He has no energy policy, and he's not recognizing the fact that the planet is being turned into a stinking junkyard.
President Bush is under pressure from environmentalists to attend the UN Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro this June. The conference could set a timetable for controlling emissions that may cause global warming. But the president says he fears those deadlines could jeopardize an economic recovery in the U.S.
Under President Bush's leadership, the United States has unfortunately become the biggest single roadblock to tackling the environmental crisis of global warming.
The Bush campaign admits that by directly attacking Clinton's environmental policy, it's escalated the battle on an issue that one campaign official believes will be more in the spotlight than it was 4 years ago. Jill Doherty, CNN, the White House.
Still ahead on Newsnight Update. A peek at New York's dark side through a different kind of looking glass.
I was already late for my meeting when my flight landed. Lucky for me, someone left a courtesy call. I had to get the dollar rent-a-car fast. I knew they were right on the airport with low rates.
Welcome to Dollar.
Hello, I have a car rental reservation.
No problem. I'll just punch it up on the computer. Dollar Rent-A-Car is right on the airport, right on the money, with unlimited mileage and locations worldwide. Call your travel consultant or Dollar at 1-800-800-4000.
For tires, there's only one name I look up to.
America's #1 name in tires.
And there's one tire store that I trust.
Is now at America's #1 tire store. Goodyear comes to Sears. And right now, selected Goodyear tires are introductory priced.
I got Goodyear tires. I got them backed by Sears. I don't need to hear anything else.
America's #1 tire now at America's #1 tire store.
Who's going to back you better than Sears?
Some things were meant to fade. And some things weren't. Like Dutch Boy satin finish house paint. Nothing resists cracking, peeling, and fading better. Nothing. So for exceptional durability, look to Dutch Boy. Because while some things were meant to fade, only Dutch Boy gives you the look that lasts.
It has armor. He has armor. It is cunning. He is more cunning. You've met the disease, roaches. Now meet the cure. The Organ Man, armed with one of the most sophisticated pest control systems in the world. He zeroes in on roaches and other pests, destroys them, and prevents their return, guaranteed. The Organ Man. One call destroys them all.
Cars bounced on L.A. freeways, and the pitchers-mounted Dodgers Stadium bounced a bit, too. There was a powerful earthquake in Southern California this evening. It struck at 9:50 p.m. Pacific time. The California Institute of Technology, which has been trying to estimate its strength on the Richter scale, now has modified its estimate. The new estimate is 6.1, still a severe earthquake by any measure. Time to go from seismology to meteorology. Here's Karen McGinnis.
Finally, most of the weather is quiet, except for a few thunderstorms which rumbled across Kansas, also across a portion of Texas. In Texas, Texahoma reported a tin roof blown off of a home during afternoon thunderstorms and gusty winds.
Near Russell, Kansas, winds gusted to 50 miles per hour. The rain really came down, and this upper-level disturbance is going to be traveling towards the Ohio Valley. This big lumbering system that produces snowfall across the lower Missouri Valley, that's headed up into eastern Canada. And across the Pacific Northwest, you're okay for now, but then there's some moisture that begins to sneak on shore. Here's the forecast map as we look for Thursday afternoon. High pressure and control, nice, pleasant conditions. Temperatures warming up rather nicely, but there's that area of low pressure. It tracks all the way from back across Oklahoma and Kansas into the Ohio Valley, and watch out for between ½ an inch and an inch of rainfall. And then by Friday morning, that area of low pressure moves across the eastern Great Lakes, so once again another round of precipitation here, but still a fairly quiet day in store, except for the northwest, and then you'll start to see some showers here. What about some high temperatures? Denver, close to 68 degrees. The cool spot across the nation for Thursday will be across the upper Mississippi River Valley and the northern Great Plains. Temperatures mostly in the 40s. Fair skies for Los Angeles in 79, Salt Lake at 62. And if you're traveling to New York City, look for an afternoon reading of 68 and partly cloudy skies. Now these forecasts coming up for Thursday afternoon.
New York police patrolling the subways have a new weapon for fighting crimes committed under the cover of darkness. CNN's Jenny Most takes a look.
Night vision goggles were a nightmare when Jodie Foster got caught in their stare by a killer. Now the goggles have gone from Hollywood subplot to New York subway.
They really give us the element of surprise.
Every day, members of the Transit Police Vandal Squad put on their bulletproof vests and descend into the blackness of the bowels of New York. There is no light at the end of some of these tunnels. No wonder a sergeant's mind is boggled by what night vision goggles can do.
We'll be able to see them way before they'll be able to see us.
They are the vandals who spray paint graffiti and steal subway property. So far, the Vandal Squad hasn't caught a single vandal with the help of night vision goggles, but they've only been experimenting with them for a couple of weeks.
And you focus with the ring in front.
The blind leading the blind, no more. The goggles turn pitch black into green. It's almost as if you're underwater rather than underground. You can even see your shadow when you think there's no light, though once you take them off, you need a light to see your goggles.
Mac, give me a light.
Part of the point is to avoid the use of flashlights, which tend to make it hard to sneak up on vandals. Through the lens, things look bright as day, even though it's darker than night.
Oh, yeah.
You found a penny in here? In the dark. They also find the homeless living in subway tunnels.
Yep, come on out. Who else you got in there with you? Nobody. How you doing? Fine, thank you. You got any ID on you?
Police made him leave the subway after he refused their offer to go to a shelter. These are not rose-colored glasses. If this grainy night vision technology looks familiar, that's because you probably saw a lot of it not too long ago. During the Gulf War, night vision scopes, goggles, and cameras took the desert by storm.
I'm going to be real glad to be American instead of Iraqi.
The same company that makes night vision equipment for the military supplies it to police departments. The goggles sell for around $3,600. In utter darkness, hearing is what saves Jodie Foster from a killer stalking her in night vision goggles. But for members of the Vandal Squad, night vision makes their day.
Oh, absolutely.
Ginny Mo, CNN, New York.
Stay with us. Coming up in a few minutes on Worldwide Update, up-to-the-minute details on that earthquake that rocked Southern California at 9:50 p.m. Eastern Time and 6.1 on the Richter scale there. Some experts say billions of dollars in international aid is not what Russia needs to improve its economy.
And the Golden Arches find a home in Beijing. Stay with us.
If you loved me half as much as I loved you.
His voice is loved around the world.
You wouldn't worry me.
The rich, warm sound of Roger Whittaker.
Once in a while he won't call.
Now, Heartland Music presents Roger Whittaker in his all-new collection, Sincerely Yours.
Oh, my papa. To me, he was so wonderful. I can't stop loving you.
Roger's voice is more beautiful than ever in his all-new collection.
I remember the night and the Tennessee waltz.
2 great albums.
Did you ever know that you're my hero?
All your favorite songs.
And everything I'd like to be. Hey, won't you play another somebody done somebody wrong song? Down the lane I walk with my sweet Mary.
Remember, Roger Whittaker's all-new collection is not in stores.
I'll be loving you.
Stay tuned to order.
Always.
To order, call toll-free 1-800-257-1257 to save all COD charges and pay only $12.98 for records or cassettes or $16.98 for compact disc, plus $3 shipping. Use your credit card or send check or money order to Roger Whittaker, P.O. Box 8250, Atlanta, Georgia. Remember, to save all COD charges, send check or money order or use your credit card.
This is CNN.
This is CNN Worldwide Update. News without borders.
The death toll is rising. Hundreds are missing and hundreds more are hurting as Mexico's second-largest city starts to recover from a devastating explosion.
Economic models do not take into account the deep, deep cultural aspects of this country, the soul of the people of this country. And without that, no model is really going to work.
Putting international aid together for Russia is one thing, but putting it to work is another.
Fighting for control of Bosnia escalates as peace efforts start anew.
Hello, and thanks for joining us. I'm Leon Harris.
And I'm Jonathan Mann. This is Worldwide Update. Our top story is the California earthquake. It happened just over an hour ago and was felt from the Mexican border to 200 miles up the coast at Santa Barbara. Buildings in downtown Los Angeles swayed for about 15 seconds, and some TV stations briefly went off the air. The quake lasted a few seconds. It felt longer to some people.
Yeah, it passed suddenly. I mean, it was almost unnoticeable. I guess it's because it wasn't situated as closely as maybe some of the others have been.
The building shook pretty hard for about 20 to 30 seconds.
Okay, and what were you doing when that happened?
I was sitting down there making some reports.
Okay, and all of a sudden you just finished that?
Yeah, the building was just shaking. I was sitting down and the chair was shaking.
By preliminary and changing estimates, the earthquake measured 6.1 on the Richter scale. That's capable of causing severe damage. But there's no report of any such damage or any injuries. The quake was centered 9 miles east of Desert Hot Springs. That's about the same place an earlier quake was centered Wednesday. Desert Hot Springs is about 110 miles east of Los Angeles. The earlier quake measured 4.6 on the Richter scale. It knocked out some telephone service, but caused no other damage or injuries once again. Ron Olson from CNN affiliate KTLA joins us now from Pasadena. No, we don't have that live report. We're hoping to coming up. Leon?
All right, we'll get that to them later. In other news, rescuers in Mexico are using specially trained dogs to search for victims buried by a series of gas explosions. The blast Wednesday ripped through Guadalajara, Mexico's second-largest city. Officials have stopped estimating the number of deaths, but journalists say they have counted 184 bodies. CNN's Mark Leff has more.
A Guadalajara neighborhood that was home to more than 100,000 people is now, in the words of one witness, an enormous crater after a series of underground explosions hit with the force of a powerful earthquake. The mid-morning sewer line explosions ripped a 10-block-long trench in the streets of the old city.
tossed parked cars and trucks into nearby buildings and left hundreds of people dead or injured. What caused the blasts is not yet clear, but they did not happen without warning. People in the neighborhood had called the fire department on Tuesday to say there was a bad odor coming from water pipes and from the sewer system. Some said it was gasoline. Fire officials told people to open their windows and let the houses air out. The state governor says firemen did check the sewer system and were checking it again Wednesday morning when the explosions began. Guadalajara's fire chief blames gasoline. Pemex, the government-owned oil and gas company, says the cause was hexane, a highly flammable substance that leaked into the city sewer system Tuesday from a privately owned cooking oil factory. Hexane smells like kerosene. Pemex insists it is not responsible for the disaster, although there are reports police in Guadalajara say there was a gas leak from a Pemex pipeline. In 1984, a Pemex facility near Mexico City blew up and killed more than 500 people. The Mexican Army is now in charge of the rescue and relief work in the city of more than 3 million. Hundreds of troops are helping civilian rescue workers and specially trained dogs dig through the rubble. Military helicopters are taking some of the injured to area hospitals. The ones closest to the disaster are full. Nobody knows how many people may still be trapped in the rubble of one of Guadalajara's oldest neighborhoods, and rescuers reported minor explosions continued late in the day as they continued to dig. Mark Leff, CNN, reporting.
Among the stories still ahead on Worldwide Update, the latest details on that California earthquake. And the fiercest fighting yet raging in Europe's newest country, but peace envoys are headed there to try to stop the bloodshed.
Plus, rebels reportedly close in on the Afghan capital of Kabul, issuing a new ultimatum to their foes.
I don't know how to say, words, no, what's the word? It's not coming out right.
It's easier done than said. Tell your mom you're thinking about her. Call 1-800-FLOWERS. Our name is our number. We'll deliver beautiful flowers anywhere to anyone, guaranteed. All you need is a credit card and a telephone for FTD service.
1-800-FLOWERS. Carol Lee speaking.
Yeah, if you would...
Call 1-800-FLOWERS to order now.
Put more than one person in the average New York City hotel room, and before long, they're bouncing off the walls. But at Embassy Suites, you get a spacious two-room suite, 2 remote TVs, a microwave, 3 phones, complimentary breakfast, and much more, all for the price of an ordinary hotel room. Twice the comfort and twice the value. Embassy Suites, New York. It's twice the hotel, even if we only have one door.
Contact lens wearers. Now you can save up to 50% on the same brand lenses your doctor prescribed. Delivered by Federal Express from America's #1 shop-at-home contact lens service. Bausch & Lomb, Wesley Jessen, Seba, Johnson & Johnson, and all other brands. Daily wear, extended wear, tints, and disposable lenses. Join the thousands who are saving real money and time by ordering their contact lenses direct from Lens Express.
For a free catalog, call 1-800-952-5600. That's 1-800-952-5600.
Tomorrow night, one more from the domestic war zone. An 11-year-old boy sues his parents for divorce. Plus, legendary actor James Coburn. Tomorrow night, Larry King Live, 9 Eastern on CNN.
No injuries to speak of, no major damage, but a lot of scared people probably in Southern California this evening, the site of a powerful earthquake that struck at 9:50 Pacific time and registered, it is estimated, 6.1 on the Richter scale. We're joined now by Ron Olson of CNN affiliate KTLA at the California Institute of Technology's Seismology Lab in Pasadena. Ron, what can you tell us?
Well, from what we're hearing at this point, we have just minor damage to the east of Los Angeles in the Desert Hot Springs area, in the Palm Springs area, in Riverside and Riverside County. We're hearing reports of some broken glass. According to the State Office of Emergency Services, we're hearing about a water tank that ruptured. But at this point, and I have to tell you, it's still very early, we aren't getting any reports of any real serious injuries from this 6.1 quake, which I'm not sure if you mentioned, the epicenter 10 miles east of Desert Hot Springs. There was a foreshock of 4.6 on the Richter scale at 7:25 this evening. That also the same epicenter with the same proximity to the San Andreas Fault. According to scientists here at the California Institute of Technology, this indicates that there is a somewhat of a chance. Okay, just a minute. I'm going to go over here and try to steal a seismic analyst now, Steve Bryant. Steve, the fact that these two quakes, the foreshock of 4.6 and the aftershock of 6.1, were within about a 10-mile proximity of the San Andreas Fault, what, if anything, does that mean?
Well, what it means is that anytime you have a large earthquake near an area where we expect to have a significant earthquake, there's always a chance that this sort of may be a precursor to that larger earthquake. Right now, the calculated probability is something like 10% to maybe 25% of seeing something more significant than this in the next 3 days.
So that's 75% to 90% that it won't happen.
That's correct, and if that's the way to look at it. We're 90% probability that nothing as equal to this or bigger is going to happen.
But in the meantime, it's something to keep an eye on and keep in mind, especially for the folks out near the epicenter.
That's true. Especially the folks out at the epicenter are going to be feeling aftershocks, but that's normal. They should expect to feel that.
Okay, thank you very much, Steve Bryant. Appreciate it. That's the story from Los Angeles at this point. 6.1, 10 minutes to 10 this evening, Pacific time. And back to you, Atlanta.
Ron, before we let you go, one question. It seems that the Richter scale estimates have been changing in the course of the evening. We had 6.0, we had 6.3, we had 6.1. Is that standard practice that they hedge a little bit before they get their numbers straight?
Well, let me pass that along to Steve Bryant. We're being asked why the changes in the Richter scale ratings. First, I think there was somebody who was saying a 6.0, and then it went up to a 6.3, and now I think we have a more accurate reading of 6.1. How is that determined?
Okay, well, what we're doing is we're sort of refining the magnitude. The first was a very rough estimate based on the duration of the trace that we saw on the records. The 6.3 came in when we could actually make some measurements, but we could only do it on a couple of the stations right away in order to get out quick magnitude. The 6.1 came when we were able to analyze more data and get a more precise picture of what the real magnitude was.
Okay, with time then you can get a more accurate picture is what you're telling us.
That's true. The more time that goes by, the more records we can look at, and the better we have of determining the actual magnitude.
Okay, Atlanta, at this point at least, it stands at 6.1, and that's probably pretty firm, isn't it?
That's probably pretty firm,
yeah.
At least through tonight.
Okay, at least through tonight.
Ron, if you can hold on to Steve Bryant for one more question. Does this qualify as a major earthquake, and was it a complete surprise, or were there indications earlier in the day that the second quake, if not the first, was coming?
Does this qualify as a major quake, and were there any indications earlier in the day that this quake was coming?
We wouldn't classify this as a major earthquake. This is significant. It's large. I mean, it's potentially a damaging earthquake. And the 4.6 is really the only precursor of sorts that we have. But then again, that was only a precursor sort of after the fact that this one happened. So there really wasn't any other indication that anything like this was going to happen earlier today.
Okay, thank you. Atlanta, back to you.
Okay, Steve Bryant of Caltech, and especially Ron Olson of CNN affiliate KTLA. Thanks very much. Leon?
In other news, the European Community Peace Delegation headed by Lord Carrington is going to the former Yugoslav Republic of Bosnia-Herzegovina. The envoy will be trying to mediate an agreement between the newly independent republic's rival ethnic groups. Fighting in the capital city, Sarajevo, is escalating between the Serbs and Muslims. Kevin Dunn of ITN filed this report on the fighting Wednesday.